Welcome back to my channel, you guys. I'm here to do another recap of the Real Housewives of New Jersey season 13, episode 2. This is going to be like a little chaotic because I have like very little time. Today's a holiday weekend. My daughter actually had Friday and Monday off, so I am just like trying to squeeze in some time to do this. But I wanted to get this out before the new episode comes out on Wednesday. So let's just get straight to it. Of course, like, comment, subscribe. But let's just get straight to it. The episode actually starts off, speaking of kids, it starts off with the kids roasting their parents. We get a scene with Danielle and her son. He's like saying he wants to speak in a British accent and he ends up cursing, which is kind of funny. And then what's her name? Gosh, Jennifer's daughter is being her sassy self as well, talking about her natural nose and all this. And we get a scene with Teresa. She's speaking to her wedding planner, going over her wedding plans and finalizing the guest list and getting the invitations out and stuff like that. So very exciting stuff. And then we get to Melissa and Joe, and they're, just casually in their house, of course. And they instantly begin talking about Teresa because Melissa has a trip coming up and she's going to an award show and she's going to be there with Teresa. And so Joe's like asking her, how do you feel about it? She's like, well, it's just going to be awkward. The engagement party was so awkward because they had went to Teresa's engagement party. And remember, there's drama with them not sitting next to Teresa. And Joe mentions that he's not walking her down the aisle. Melissa, again, is not in the wedding. They're just so hurt over these things, okay? So I want to point out, if you guys follow any of them or follow any of the Bravo accounts, right? Almost every week, they're releasing receipts that counter whatever Melissa and Joe are saying. They said basically that the engagement party was so awkward. Well, they released like a bunch of pictures. Sorry, I'm like looking at myself. They released a bunch of pictures and you see Melissa and Joe actually not looking that awkward. They are smiling. They are in multiple pictures. They look very happy. Now, some say, okay, it's just a snapshot, but some people say a picture says 1,000 words, right? So either they were faking it for the camera, which is something that I think they're familiar with doing, or they really did have a bad time. And then the LA thing, I'm actually, I'd have to rewatch it, but I'm not sure if it actually happened already. But they also debunked when they went to this award show. Yeah, I believe, what is that? I think that actually happens later. I think I'll recap that later. But I think we might discuss it later. But the award show that they go to, and Joe's also saying how awkward it is. We can't even walk down the red carpet. Oh, they posted, I believe, if you want to see it, it's on All About the Real Housewives on Instagram. They posted all the photos of Teresa, Melissa, Louie, Joe. They're hugging, they're snapping pictures together. They're all at the same table. They look really happy. So I just think like the cracks in Joe and what Joe and Melissa are trying to show us, it's falling apart. I mean, obviously there is bad blood. I can't lie and say that there isn't. Teresa has not been perfect through this, but they are really, I don't know, they're just liars to me. So there's just so many instances of them lying. Then, let's see, we get Danielle and her kids actually go over to meet up at Jen's house. And I thought it was really funny because Danielle has 2 small kids, Jen has young kids, and she's showing up to the house and her kids are like, whoa, like this house is beautiful. Danielle walks in, she's like, what the heck? Like Jennifer's house is huge. I'm sure she's seen the show, but she sees it in person. And she's like, look, I'm not worried about my kids breaking anything. I'm worried about them wanting a house like this. I'm going to have to bust my balls and work, forever to get them a house like this. And I'm like, she's obviously providing her kids with a beautiful life and you can't compare, but come on, Jen's house is very opulent, very, very, very beautiful. So some people, it may not be their style even, but I thought that was actually really funny. And then they discuss a little bit about like Dolores and how Jennifer Aiden is still upset about, sorry, I thought I saw something. Jennifer Aiden is still upset about Dolores and just the demise of their friendship and not feeling like Dolores is like hearing her. And during this time, Teresa calls and she is talking about how they had a little meetup with one of Margaret's ex-best friends. This apparently is a best friend that Margaret has had since childhood, that she and Margaret fell out. And Margaret's best friend Laura has been calling Jennifer Aiden, Teresa, to try to talk to them to say, I've got some information that I think you would like. And I love that Jennifer Aiden says, you know what? Would Margaret absolutely get this tea if she could? Like if someone was calling her about me? Yeah, she would. And as we know, Margaret did go and find the person and talk to the people that Jen's husband was cheating with and all that stuff last year. So Margaret would absolutely do this. My thoughts on, there's like a little dust thing right here. Sorry, I'm just trying to, sorry. Okay, so what do I think about that? I think in the reality TV world, maybe this is things people do. That's not normal. I wouldn't take a meeting with somebody, I don't think. However, I actually think that this person, Laura, I mean, keep in mind, this is Margaret's childhood best friend who is not on this show. 1,000%, I think Margaret probably has told this person a lot of secrets, has told her all her thoughts, has told her behind the scenes stuff. So I 1,000% think that whatever she said was probably true, or it's true according to the way it was delivered to her from Margaret. From what I've heard, the girl gives some really good tea about Melissa, but we'll hear about that later. But Margaret's best friend, went out of her way to get them this information and, tell them everything Margaret had been saying. And so Danielle's like, well, did she ask about anybody else? Was anyone else discussed? And Teresa and Jen were just quiet. They were just like, not going there, not saying anything. Jen's like, look, it's going to come out and it'll come out later. I don't think I need to go out of my way to spill Margaret's tea, to spill all this information. It's going to come out. So, and we know it will. There's no secrets in this world. And we go to Rachel's house now, the other new housewife. Now she has 3 kids, 2 babies, 2 under the age of 2, and then she has an older stepson. She says the only reason why she points out that he's her stepson is because of her age and he's 15. And they have a pretty good exchange. She's definitely been in his life for several years. And they seem to have, worked a good family. Then we go to Margaret's house and she's having the ladies over for a naughty game night. Margaret, she's going to make something naughty. And Melissa shows up. All the ladies are coming. Melissa shows up with sprinkle cookies. I'm like, she is literally so pressed about Teresa. Teresa's always on her mind. She's showing up with sprinkle cookies. They look beautiful, by the way. And they end up playing a game. And they're playing a naughty game where they're asking questions about, this and that, whatever. But they get to some talking about, Melissa's trip to LA. And she said it was awkward. The award show, again, those pictures didn't look awkward. You can go look at them online. Any of the Bravo sites, Twitter, it's all on there. Look at them for yourself. Tell me if you think Teresa and Melissa and Louie and Joe looked awkward together at this award show. Don't think so. But she goes, I'm done worrying about her. I'm done talking about her. Really, Melissa, because literally every single scene, you've had Teresa's name in your mouth. Dolores also says that she's done with Jen. Margaret brings up about how they met with her childhood friend. And she's like, this shows Jennifer's true colors. Now, Jackie is also at this event. And Jackie shares that she believes that Jennifer is way more dangerous than Teresa because Jen does sneaky things like this and her true colors are coming out. And, I have to agree with Margaret. I mean, if we're trying to move on, and they talk about this a little later, but we're trying to move on, yet you're meeting with people behind my back and you want to get information, but we supposedly settled this. But again, this is a reality show. And I don't think Jennifer Aiden truly has dealt with the trauma of Margaret exposing her affair that nobody in her family knew about. So she had to go and live through that shame that should never have been for her to feel shame about, right? But we know she's explained her culture and just how she feels. And just, as a woman, sometimes you take on things that have absolutely nothing to do with you. But she felt embarrassed. She felt shame that her husband strayed when it was freaking Bill's ass who should just be reamed for it. But whatever. So, but I think, Margaret's right to kind of feel her way. But I think, they both played really dirty together. Okay. But Marge knows how to, she can dish it and she can take it too. So she's one of those girls. You're not going to catch Marge running and crying because someone like called her out on some shit. And we get Dolores. Now she's at Paul's house. He has a really cool place, you guys. It looks like very New York, like with his like kitchen and like the wine and all that stuff. And she was saying how the girls are teasing her now because she has Paul's picture of a screensaver. She's just basically succumbed to just like being a giddy girlfriend in love. And honestly, I love it for her. They bring up Frank, and Paul was kind of playing around how, when Frank didn't come to the calendar event and he found out Frank was sick, he stopped pumping iron because, obviously Big Frank is like super in shape. But Paul's like, look, Frank is not used to me being the man in your life, and he doesn't need to be that for you anymore. I mean, keep in mind, Dolores and Frank Sr. have been divorced for as old as however old Frankie is, okay? So they have been divorced that whole time, claims they never had any inappropriate or, any interactions with each other after that. However, Frank stayed like the main man in her house. Like if she needed something, he always kind of kept that role as husband, like helping her. But I think also Dolores is very independent, but if she needed something from a man, she did get it from her ex-husband. That arrangement worked for them. It's worked for several relationships. Girlfriends have accepted that Frank has had. Dolores, her ex, accepted it. I mean, Frank freaking lives with her ex-boyfriend, but listen, Paul's like, no, I'm your man. Big Frank can take a rest and just enjoy his life, okay? So I kind of like their little scene, their interaction. We got to see a little bit more of that and got to see where Paul lived. Then we've got Teresa's invitations are coming. Everyone's getting them. Of course, Joe and Melissa get theirs. They use this as another opportunity to share how hurt they are and how awkward LA was and all that. Again, I told you the tea has been spilled on that. They say that Louis has changed the dynamic in their relationships. It's like they've gone backwards. He mentions that, they had a bad seed, which was Juicy Joe, and he's gone. And now like Louis just made things like even worse, whatever. Danielle is having a mozzarella party and she has invited everybody. So the ladies are coming to that party. And it's kind of a fun scene because Danielle's like talking about, the party, and she's like getting everything ready. She's running all around her house. You know how it is. This is her first time hosting, the first time the cameras are going to be in her home like that, showing how she does her sets up. I mean, these ladies are used to throwing parties, right? And Danielle's like, look, Jennifer's house could eat my house for breakfast. She's like, I'm a little nervous hosting them. She goes, I'm not saying I don't have a nice house. And I totally get what she's saying. She's not saying her home isn't nice or not even jealous. I don't think it's just like, imagine like some rich housewife is coming to your home. You're going to be like, oh my gosh, like, let me make sure that like I've, taking care of these things. Or, like me in my office, like I probably would have to finally paint this office if somebody was coming here. So I totally get it. She's like, as long as no one calls my house cute. And then of course, Dolores is one of the first people who comes. And what does she say? Oh, it's so cute. And Dale's just like, aye. So I like that. Teresa arrives next and she's bringing up how, everyone's like, oh, we got your invitation. She goes, well, I had to redo my invitation because Ramona, which is another housewife from the New York franchise, put her freaking invitation online, and Teresa had to like change everything and was going to resend invites, but they didn't have enough time. So they created a website and sent something virtually and with new information and time and date and all that stuff, I guess. So Ramona freaking totally like exposed everything about Teresa's wedding. And then in the end, what's funny is Ramona didn't even freaking come to the wedding. So that's really annoying, but Teresa seemed to be a good sport about it. She was just like, oh my God, Ramona. Like she wasn't like crying or super upset. Rachel, so now all the ladies are there, okay? And they're just kind of mingling, talking, they're getting their drinks. Rachel starts up and she goes ahead and asks Dolores, so, have you talked to Jennifer, since that last conversation? And Dolores is like, no, haven't talked to her. And then they get into this big conversation about everything. And Teresa is trying to like explain, friend-splain Jen's point and Jen's standpoint, and that Jen just wanted to feel validated because Dolores invited her to that charity event. She included her, and Jen felt like Dolores should have been a little bit more like, thank you for coming to this. Like, I know we're fighting, but blah, blah, blah. And Dolores is like, if I have to like kiss her ass because I invited her to something, included her in something I didn't need to. Sorry, I'm a mess today. She's like, if I have to do that, like, I don't care. Like, I don't care to do it. Like, Dolores literally is not having it. Okay. Jennifer comes. It's awkward, but the other Jen breaks the ice by asking for a napkin because her thighs are sweating. Jen Felsler, I think her name is. She's freaking funny. I don't know if we'll get to see more of her, but I just like her little scenes. I like her little like shtick. I love how she's just like always bringing up things, and I don't know. I think she's funny. I like all the new people so far. Then Teresa shares that they asked Teresa about like her trip in LA. Now Teresa gives a totally different explanation. She said she had a good time in LA with Melissa. And then she mentioned she's been going to therapy. All the ladies kind of talk about, like the Italian ladies are like, hey, you know, we don't really do therapy in our culture. We're starting to, you know, be more open to that. And Jen's like, the other Jen's like, well, I'm Jewish, so all we do is go to therapy. And I thought it was funny because a lot of people of color also don't go to therapy, but I think we're like changing the stigma on mental health and that. And I know a lot of us grew up with like, you don't need therapy, you need to pray, you know, like you pray on it. But I think we've learned the value of like taking care of our mental health. So fun scene. I love therapy for Teresa. And Danielle also mentions that she didn't invite Jackie because Jackie's got a little attitude, and that the last time she was around Jackie's house, Jackie looked her up and down and was like, you know, looking at her outfit and stuff. Now, I think Danielle's outfit that she was wearing for her party was like, it reminded me like very Jersey, like 2008. I don't know, just like the the red number with the feathers and the shorts. I don't know. It wasn't my style, but like none of the ladies seemed to flinch. I mean, it's Jersey. You're gonna get some cheetah print. You're gonna get some big jewelry. You're gonna get some little funky style. And like this isn't Beverly Hills where they're dressing more couture, New York. I mean, like this is, or Miami where they're, you know, it's super sexy all the time. So whatever. And I'm sure Jackie was salty because she, you know, wants the screen time. Rachel admits that Jackie also gave her an attitude at Dolores's party. And then Jen chimes in. She goes, oh, well, is that why, you know, me and you had our little exchange and you had attitude with me? And Rachel's like, no, that's not why. You were just being defensive and blah, blah, blah. And then it leads into a conversation about talking about Margaret again and how she exposed the affair. And Marge's like, look, let's not go backwards, okay? Then they finally start making the mozzarella. Fun little scene, cute guys making it. And this is when things just get super awkward. Like this isn't even going to be like a super like thorough of this because it was so much back and forth. Margaret and Jen start talking, okay? Margaret confronts her about meeting with her ex-friend, which I loved. Margaret just straight up, she's not going to pretend like she doesn't know. She mentions earlier that Jen has a mole in her camp, and the mole told her. And Jen is like, yeah, I met with her. Like, you know, she wanted to meet with me. I wanted to hear. And Margaret's like, don't you understand why I would be upset about that? Like, we're supposed to be moving forward, yet you're going and freaking meeting with her. And Jen isn't taking accountability for that. She's just like, no, like, I'm just being honest. And I'm like, Jennifer, you guys really are supposed to be moving on, and you're over here meeting with people behind her back. Regardless if Margaret would do it or not, like acknowledge that it's shady. Like I said, I said I forgive you. They hugged it out. I think Margaret maybe did feel really bad about bringing the affair up on camera because she didn't realize how deep it went, how culturally, how it went, how the judgment Jennifer unfairly was going to get from very misogynistic views and how this really affected her. She probably thought it would embarrass her, but she didn't realize how deep, like how her mother and everybody would be like, this is your fault, you know? So they did move on from that. But, you know, Jen, well, I'm sure it'll come later. Jen has got to really work on that with Bill as well. It's not Margaret's like cross to bear the whole thing, but, you know, I do think that Jen has some residual like little hatred towards Margaret for this, and so she wanted to meet with a friend. So they start just going on and on and on, and then Jennifer looks over at Dolores, who's in the pool, because Margaret walks away. She's like, you need therapy, you need help. And, you know, Jen's like, don't tell me how to, you know, how I should process things, and I can do what I want, and blah, 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 and you can't tell me I should be over it, and blah, blah, blah. And then she says something to Dolores, Jennifer does, and she's like, Dolores who? You know, we're good, sweetie. Like, we're not friends anymore or something like that. We're good, right? When I tell you the way Dolores jumped up out of that pool, Dolores jumped up fast. Like, when she heard her name, Dolores was like, what? Hopped up fast, right? Now, the way Teresa, though, got up real fast. If you notice, Teresa usually stays out of people's, like, one-on-one arguments. But the way Teresa got up, because Teresa knows Patterson, Dolores, Teresa got up fast. She was like, hold on. She was like, you know what? Melissa got him. She's like, look, old girl has a mouth on her, Jennifer, but she doesn't know, like, Dolores will, like, beat that ass. So she got up. That was my biggest takeaway from that how well Teresa knew everybody in that moment, how she needed to hop that ass out of that pool. So then Jennifer and Dolores start going at it, blah, blah, blah. I just honestly, I don't care to recap it. It's so ridiculous. Honorable mention, though, the other Jen, Fessler, I think her name is, she was like eating throughout this, and I thought that was hilarious. She tries to actually interject and get in and say, you know, neither one of you guys are listening to each other's points. And Dolores was like, Jen, wrong time, wrong people to try it with. Like, we're not finna hear the kumbaya stuff. I thought that was funny, but I'm like, you guys keep trying to shut these new people down who are trying to edge their way into this. Jen's trying to be a voice of reason, and Delo was like, well, yo, like, this ain't the time. So then freaking Margaret brings up, so Teresa brings up for her wedding, you know, they kind of settle down. They're like under some shade. It's hot out, right? She brings up, you know, guys, I'm thinking for my wedding, I'm not going to do seating arrangements. It's going to be open table and everything. And then they start, Margaret brings up, yeah, because the last time you guys did a seating chart, it was a big problem with the engagement seating. Melissa and Teresa get into it about that. She's like, you know, you were supposed to be sitting right there. Melissa's like, Teresa. Melissa flips. She's like, I never thought I'd see the day you would look me in the eye and lie directly into my eyes. She goes, we get there. You're sitting there with your kids and Louie's family. Me and your brother are sitting over here with the hairdressers and Jen and all these other people. Teresa's like, why would I not want my only brother at my table, Melissa? Why would I not do that? She's like, I don't know. So they go back and forth with it. And, you know, Teresa's like, you know, family is everything. Melissa's like, I am done. I am done hearing this. I don't want to hear about this anymore. I am just, you know, so Melissa's like escalating, and she's so outdone because, as Dolores said, Italian family seating arrangements, where who gets seated where and all that is apparently very, very, very important. And, you know, some tea has come out about this as well. Teresa's original seating chart was released online, and it shows that Joey and Melissa were supposed to be at her table. Jennifer also confirms that that at the engagement party, Teresa was like, oh my God, I feel so bad that my brother wasn't at my table. So why he didn't end up there, I don't know. Maybe people sat down and it was weird, it was rude, and they're drinking and they're hanging out, and, you know, Dina's there, and they have to be careful who they sit because, you know, Dolores can't be at the table with Dina, and there's all this drama. Actually, I don't even think Dolores was at the engagement party because of her issues with Dina, because this is the time when Dina was still in the wedding, and it was just all this stuff. If you don't know that drama, look it up. But I think it's just it's exhausting, even as someone who like is just ready to get in the trenches and defend Teresa. Like, it is so exhausting, all of this, okay? So at the end of the day, the episode just freaking ends. I don't even know. I think it literally ends with them just like fighting at poor Danielle's party, who does a toast like, well, my party was going really well. Danielle, your party did do well. You're doing a good job. It was a decent episode. We've got a long season. I think we've got so many more blow-ups and so many back and forths. It's exhausting. It's exhausting. It's really exhausting. I can't imagine actually living through it. But anyways, another cool episode. I'm looking forward to this week's episode. We're going to get some more information from the kids, talking about when Juicy Joe was away, and really how involved Teresa brother Joe Gorga was. And I had already heard that Joe Gorga has really tried to play up that he was there for the kids, and I've heard that really he wasn't that much there for them. It wasn't until the cameras came back around that Joe kind of came back around. But we'll see. We'll hear from the kids. We'll see how they spin it. We'll see if they say they're lying. There was also some more offline tea about Joey Gorga running into Joe Giudice in the Bahamas, setting that up, taking pictures with him, and then Gia getting on Instagram like, yo, this is fake. You were just talking about my dad. So much. Do I think, the kids have a right to say something? Hell yeah. You know, obviously, like, there's a way to say things respectfully, but we all have an opinion about this family. These are the only people in this family. Yeah, I think Gia has a right to speak on her father, especially in defense of him as well as her mother. She sees it. She's not a little kid. She's a very smart girl. So we will see what happens. Okay, Jersey is so much drama. But if you've liked this video, please comment down below. Thank you for taking time to watching. And until next time, until next week, I'm going to put out, another recap. So thank you for watching. Good night.